Hello, my name is Peggy Adams, President of the League of Women Voters, Flint area. With partners Flint Beat, represented by Jaquanda Johnson, and Communities First, Incorporated, represented by Lori Ross, we're bringing you this forum today because we share a purpose to engage, empower, and educate Flint voters. We're happy to bring you a virtual community forum today to help you decide which candidate for the Michigan State House and Senate in your districts will get your vote. Questions will be asked by representatives from Flint Beat and the League of Women Voters, while Communities First Incorporated staff will ensure the forum remains on time and on schedule. All candidates who have qualified to be on the ballot were invited to participate in this event. However, some candidates chose not to participate, did not return requests for participation, or had a scheduling conflict. To follow up, be sure to check Vote 411 to check the responses to our questionnaire, which contains different questions. All participants were informed they would need to comply with certain rules, such as to refrain from comments on other persons and only take the opportunity to tell voters about their own qualifications, priorities, and outlook. All candidates are asked the same questions and all have the same 2 minutes to answer them. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today and being an engaged citizen. Now, I'm happy to introduce Erin Gardner and Christina Hickson, who are in the race for the 27th State Senate District in the Republican primary. Ms. Jaquanda Johnson of Flint Beat will begin our questions.
Thank you. I'm going to start today with Mr. Gardner. And the first question will be, what are the 3 most pressing issues facing your district? If elected, how will you address them?
Yeah, so I think some of the biggest issues here in Genesee County would include, one, jobs and the economic recovery that we need here in Flint. The next thing would be our educations and our schools. And then, of course, the Flint water crisis still hasn't ended, and we need to fix that. We need to put that in the front runner of everything. Now, my plan to be elected, once elected, is to address all of those with one swoop, and that's to, one, help those mismanaged educational institutions that are in the area, and help fix those schools so that our students are graduating with more than a 3rd grade reading level. They're graduating with skills that can go out into the economy and allow businesses to come into place and hire students that are graduating or just short of graduation who have those skill sets, which would help build the economy. And businesses that will invest in our community, because number one, Genesee County is important to be invested in. It is important for those businesses to want to be invested and the people to be invested in their community.
I don't hear anything.
You're muted, I think.
I'm sorry. And again, the same question also for you, Councilwoman Hickson. What are the 3 most pressing issues facing your district? And if elected, how will you address them?
All right. As a teacher, I see that we do have an issue with education, just as Mr. Gardner has said. I believe that with my expertise, I will be able to get in there and talk to our senators and our representatives and help to create the kind of curriculum that will be more like the curriculum that we actually had in the past. Instead of going up in reading levels, some of this new curriculum is actually making our students struggle more. We need to go back to programs that we had in Flint, like the HOST program. It was an amazing program where we worked with churches and the schools and communities to improve the child's education. I think we can put that possibly even onto a state level, or at least the struggling areas of the state that are having problems, or in our communities that are having the most problems. I also believe that we have an issue with the water crisis. I've been talking about this for 3 years, and I've been telling everyone that this has not been addressed by our state. We've been fighting to get this addressed. And the thing that I had an idea about, and my friends that I talked with, we had some people in the community that could actually help. Because see, I lived in a water community where we had well water, and we had to use our water to make, and we had to use our water softeners and things like that and different filters to make our water safe to drink. We had arsenic in our water. So we took care of that problem that way. I think the people could be getting right now, they could be getting programs instead of bottled water, which is nothing but just a Band-Aid. We can get something like water systems for their homes, filtration systems so they can shower. We need things like that for the people to address the now. And we can do this when I'm elected. We can do this with the support of our communities. We can put together these programs where we're working. Okay. The last thing is the
Your time is up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We've got a lot to address here. We got one more thing, but that's okay. We'll get to it later.
Okay, the next question, and this does go to you, Ms. Hickson. What best practices will you employ when making decisions on behalf of the residents of the 27th District?
Well, I think some of the best practices is listening to the people. We have to go out and amongst the communities, and we have to get in there and talk to them. I mean, when I went to my last forum, which Mr. Gardner missed last time, but we went to this forum, and so I'm just going to catch everybody up. And we talked about issues in Flint, and a lot of people are not okay with that. They don't want the things that the other people in the state legislation that they're pushing for. They just want them to be listened to. And so our best practices are to listen more to the people and get more information, like this water crisis. We do have an issue with this water crisis, and we are going to have to go after it. He ignored it when we were going through the situation. And I think what we can do as people is sharing our information together in our communities, maybe put together a forum where we meet often, and we can meet with the people often and have their input. I mean, Mr. Sneller, when he was working as a state representative, he had coffee with everybody. So that helped get the community involved. So I think our best practices are things like, with communication with our members, our voters, so that they can know that if they come up with a problem right away, we can address it before it gets worse. We have to implement the situation with the economy too. We are really having a hard time with insurance on cars. We are the second most expensive car insurance. And so I'm going to do policies where people will be able to read the bills and things, because these bills go through and we think we solved it, but they're really not solving it. The people cannot understand what we're writing.
Time's up.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Gardner, same question. What best practices would you employ when making decisions on behalf of the residents of the 27th?
Well, the number one thing is that we have to be involved in all of the local municipalities and in the events, at local events, talking to people, at the township halls, at the school board meetings, especially. Yep. So because that's where all of the individuals are coming together and where there's a lot of frustration at. So listening to those people and trying to understand where there's a middle. One, there's so much controversy over everything, and when we can meet and we can find a resolution together, that's where it matters the most. Next is, I'm not going to Lansing and staying in Lansing. I'm traveling back home. I have a family here. I have kids here. I have kids that are in the school district, and I'm going to be here in the schools, in the stores, so that people can just reach out to me at any moment. I think that's important, and that's the biggest thing, and bringing it back down to the municipal level so that the state's not controlling everything, but the people themselves are actually controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner, this question goes to you. What efforts, if any, would you take as an elected leader to ensure transparency and access in governance?
So these past couple of years have shown that transparency and accountability is a hard thing to come about with our elected officials. We've had in Genesee County one of the most corrupt politicians in political environments in the entire state, if not the country. So number one thing is,
excuse me, Mr.
Yes,
Gardner, I must caution you, you're not allowed to address anyone but yourself. You can only reflect on your own aspects that you bring to it, but you are not allowed to mention anyone else. Sorry.
Roger, not mentioning anybody else, just mentioning the fact of the environment that we live in currently right now.
Okay, moving on.
And to address that, we need to have transparency. We need to have bills that are in place that are transparent bills and that are accountable bills, and that the people themselves are voting on, not just ballot measures, but things at the municipal levels and the state levels, and everybody comes together to agree to bring it back down to the people, so that the people are 100% visible and see and hear everything that their elected officials are doing.
Thank you. Ms. Hickson, also for you, what efforts, if any, would you take as an elected official, elected leader, to ensure transparency and access in governance?
Well, I actually have some friends that have been working on this same thing. One of the things we want to do is we want to create a bill that will force us as elected officials as a whole to be transparent with all of our bills, so that the people, that they don't just get a news, oh, by the way, we just have this bill now, and now you have to do this, where we have to actually get buy-in from the people, similar to what Mr. Gardner was saying. It's actually in the making, and we're working on possibly being able to have it ready to sign when we get elected. But the main thing is that the people will be able to read the bills. It won't be made by the lawyers who write all these little things in there that you might find later on in your legislation after it's been implemented. This is something that we will be able to tell the people. We'll have to be able to tell the people what's in the bill. We won't have someone say, oh, you have to pass the bill to find out what's in it. We will actually find out what's in the bill before it's actually put toward the people, and the people are forced to go by it. That's what we really do need in our government. And if we don't get that kind of transparency, they'll continue sneaking in little things here and there that the people have no idea about, like myself.
All right. Again, Ms. Hickson, how would you work as a state senator to improve public safety and blight eliminations in local communities?
Well, I think blight eliminations are very important. In our city council, we've been working very hard to add a little bit more to the budget so that we can take care of those homes that are unsafe and that need to be torn down, and that it doesn't become a problem in the community to take down the property values. As a city councilwoman, we actually have gone after blight quite some, but you also have to keep an eye out for the people who are not purposefully making the property bad. They might have issues where a tree fell on their house and now their porch has to be redone. I think we need to continue with these community involvements. Like, I know that G-Card has some programs that are already implementing. They are already being implemented in Flint, and I think those are amazing. I would want to encourage those programs to continue doing what they're doing, helping people repair their own home. And I think that's just absolutely amazing that that we have those kind of programs for the people. And, you know, when the people need them, that's when you implement them. You know, it's like G-Card is helping the people with blight. And then we can be there to say, hey, you know, this needs to be done. Here's your resource. You can use, you know, the resources that G-Card has been using to help with home fix repairs and things like that. So I think we have to keep a balanced idea about the blight.
Okay, Mr. Gardner, same question. How would you work as a state senator to help improve public safety and blight elimination in local communities?
Well, I mean, working with the local communities is foremost the most important job of any elected official. And I think my plan to bring businesses and to help with the education actually helps create that investment from the businesses and the private individuals and the private companies that want to invest in the community. Having those businesses invest in our community can really help take out some of those buildings that we're spending $1 million on right here in Flint, Michigan, that they need to be fixed. They need to be recovered. And I think some of that best way to do that is to have the businesses recover some of those private businesses that are now in shambles.
Thank you. Okay. This question starts with Mr. Gardner. How would you approach ensuring that local communities receive the revenue they need from the state government to fund basic local services such as parks, recreation centers, transportation, and public safety?
That's a great question, because I was just recently speaking to a few police officers about some of their issues that they're facing with public safety and the cost of that being at the state level. And the true answer is it has to be brought down to the municipals all the way through, where the state isn't held responsible for that, but the county and the city and the municipals are accountable for that. So they receive the money, they receive the funding from that, and it's not just dispersed at random or depending on what particular area needs it the most, but it's dependent on the direct area from how the municipals and the elected officials in those local municipalities are choosing to use that money.
Thank you. Ms. Hickson, the same question for you. How would you approach ensuring that local communities receive the revenue they need from the state government to fund basic local services such as parks, recreation centers, transportation, and public safety?
Well, when I was in the city council position, I was blessed with working with some of the people in the state, and they would bring to us the funds that we needed because we asked for it. So what I would have to do is I would go make sure that I would go to the people and that are in the state level and the ones that make the budgets and things. When we put it in the budget, that's how they're going to get it. We have to, when I did my budget in city council, we put things in the budget for our people. We actually left things out of the budget because when we didn't need it, we didn't put it there. I mean, you have to go line by line by line with your budget, and you have to plan ahead with your budget. You have to know who's in need. You have to be in touch with your local municipalities, like Mr. Gardner said, and we have to be able to do the things to prepare it ahead of time. I think we would be working on our budget this year. And what we would do is we would plan on those extras that each local state had. And because we're going to those local levels, we would know what to put in the budget. Like I said, line by line, we have to know. So the main thing is knowledge and gathering information and being in touch with your community. And that's how you're going to get the money to the people, is planning things ahead and actually asking for it ahead of time while you're in those meetings, while you're doing that budget meetings.
Okay, and now we're down to our last question. Ms. Hickson, why should voters consider electing you to this office?
Well, I believe that I am the person most qualified for this office. I have served on my city council in Burton, and I have learned how to do the things that are going to be done by a senator in a state position. I'm very excited and willing to serve my voters. They've actually tried to elect me for other positions in 2020 as well. I have a teaching experience of 15 years working with Flint Community Schools. I've been amongst you in your communities. I've seen how things work in the school system. I can help with the programs in schools, like host programs, things like that can get our students back online, back working hard again for reading. I know what programs worked. I know what programs didn't. I'm familiar with a lot of the people in the legislation. So I have kind of like I have friends in high places. I'm also a person that's been working to talk for the people. I've been going door to door, talking with the people for 3 years now. And I think I really do represent the 27th district, our newly made 27th district. I think I represent Flint, Burton, Grand Blanc, Mundy Township, Swartz Creek, Flushing, all of them. Clio, I've lived amongst you. I've worked with you. I've gone in your neighborhoods, and I would really appreciate their vote. And I think they know it.
Okay, Mr. Gardner, same question. Why should voters consider electing you to this office?
Well, I have a history of service with 14 years in the Army. But prior to the service in the Army, I was living in Genesee County, and I've spent all of my life here. And when I was returned home from the Army, this was my home. So I'm still fighting for it. I'm still serving people. I'm still serving and serving those who believe in our community. I have bounced around this entire community when I was a kid. I didn't come from anything. I am just an average guy, just wanting to make my community better for me, for my family, and for everyone else's families as well.
Well, thank you so much for your participation today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We really appreciate the opportunity to let our voters know who we are and what we stand for. Thank you.